Greetings, future masters. Let me show you an interesting endgame. The solution to this endgame is not as easy as it looks. First, let's go with the obviously bad move. The worst move possible, f6. Rook takes rook check, and then rook takes your pawn. It's over. You lose. Okay. The other one is this. The king can't go anywhere because, well, the king can move actually, but he'll play rook takes rook is the problem. So rook captures rook. King takes rook. Blah, blah, blah. Pawn f6 check. King f7. Or actually, he could actually just play here. But anyway, yes, sorry. Rook takes rook check. King takes rook. f6 check. King f8. This is a secret move. So that if king g6, king to g8, and now f7 check draws. The key trick is you cannot, as the winning side, in this case it's white, if white pushes pawn to the 7th rank with check, it's a draw. This is a rule you have to know. So knowing that rule, rook takes rook, king takes rook, f6 check, king to f8 is the super move. King to g8, king to g6, king to g8. And now it doesn't matter what he does. The pawn check is with the pawn pushes forward with check. He goes to f8, king to f6, draw, stalemate. So you got to know that. So the rook takes rook doesn't work. So pawn moves forward doesn't work. Rook moves forward. King to here, rook takes rook, and then king takes rook. King takes pawn, wins. Draws the game, wins the pawn and the rook for the rook. King to here draws. King to here draws. King to here draws. King to here does not necessarily draw, but it will be a draw because rook takes rook, pawn takes rook, king to g7. So, or I'm sorry, king to g7. So, yes, that's correct. So the last move that draw. If you do the work, you'll find this is king h5 draws. The only other move left. I calculated this as a win, but if you cannot calculate it as a win, every other move either loses, f6 loses, rook takes rook draws. Every other move, the pawn move and the rook move. The rook has only one legal move, so does the pawn. And these other 4 moves, all 6 of these moves draw. The only move left, if you can't calculate the win, is king to h6, which actually wins. But I calculated this out. Because what happens is there's another rule you have to know about king and pawn versus king, and that is if black's king is on f8, king to f6 wins by force. And this is another rule you have to know. So he went king to g8, king to g6 is winning. f8, king to f6 is winning. It's game over because now doesn't matter where black goes. King to e8, white plays king to g7. And this is the shepherd position, and it just marches to queen. King to g8, king to e7, shepherd position, pawn marches to queen. So this is the dealio. This is a very simple in the context of the number of pieces on the board. This is a very finite possibility endgame that literally, with advanced visualization that I have, and I'm trying to help you guys get there, is that with a couple of knowledge, with the knowledge of a couple of rules, which is the pawn to the 7th rank check ends in a draw, and knowing that king f8, king f6 by white, this is a forced win. Knowing these rules, this allows confidence in calculating the variations, because I reach these positions in my calculations and go, well, that's a win. Or the other one is F7 check, that's a draw. So these are the things that you have to know to be an advanced player. And you can get your board and check these yourself. They're fairly basic, and if you go and run through these things that I've just described for you, all these situations, and you only need 5 pieces, 2 kings, 2 rooks, and a pawn, to reproduce what's going on here yourself and see what happens. It's pretty basic stuff, but it's super powerful. As you see, I shredded a 2507 endgame like it was really nothing, because I have done the work in the past 40 years ago. You have to do this work if you want to be an advanced player. It's just that simple. And who knows, it might be a month or two before you ever use this information. It could be longer. But going through this, it's like working with weights. You get stronger and stronger and stronger. You're not going to be the Incredible Hulk in 2 weeks. It doesn't happen. Same thing with chess. You're not going to be Magnus Carlsen in 2 weeks. But these are important things you have to go through, and I show you these examples as they appear in my own daily whatever, and make videos out of them rather than sitting here and trying to calculate all this stuff. I don't know, it just, if it shows up, I do it and then show it to you because I can. So hopefully this helps. It's like just over 7 minutes. Like the video, subscribe unless you've already subscribed. Get more gold. Some of the best lessons you'll ever see. I'll talk to you guys later.